So here's an update on the PF Coupe that I've been working on for Cavallino. The engine compartment is just about done. I think I've got everything kind of together. Oh, I just saw one thing I missed. I want to change this oil filter to match the red one, but the rest of it is pretty much coming together. So let's see what's changed. I ended up pulling the valve covers off because on PF Coupes, this valve cover or chain cover was originally silver. So in order to do that, I had to take the valve covers off because that doesn't come off without taking this off first. You can risk tearing out the oil seal in between it, so it's better to take that off. A little bit involved, but it came out and put it back in. Took this out, painted it. The other thing we did was, or I did, was change the acorn nuts. So now all the acorn nuts are correct. I had a set that I sent out and had them CAD plated. Found the correct one over here, replaced that one. Pulled the wires out and put the little O-rings in here. These little O-rings kind of keep the wires together. I also took all the labeling off. So although some judges will take points deductions for the stenciling on the wires, others won't. And the other thing is I changed the distributor caps. I found a set of original ones that I was able to salvage and clean. So now the car has original brown distributor caps. Also behind it, you can see that I repainted the coils, and the coils are a darker red, probably closer to the correct color. So I changed the battery just because it was a little bit of an eyesore to have that blue one in there. I mean, I know it's not a big thing. They don't take points off for the battery, but I just wanted the whole car to kind of have a good overall appearance to being period correct. And what also allows me to do is get a battery sticker and put it on there. Again, I don't necessarily think that's necessarily a point deduction, but I think it certainly helps the overall look of the car. Also got the correct battery terminals and put the brass battery terminals in and attached them to the cabling. On the horns, I changed the horn tubes to clear. There's some people say that they're supposed to be cream colored, but I think it's just age. So these I was able to find and get the cream colored or the clear ones and put them in. So that's really about it on the engine compartment. I think I'm pretty much there. Like I said, I want to change the oil filter over here, the bypass filter, to a matching red one to the one that's on the car, so that way it'll match the other oil filter. I also changed out the heater hose. The heater hose has this like texture to it as opposed to the smooth regular store-bought or auto parts store heater hose. The original stuff had this braided finish on it, so that was changed over. And the other thing I did was change the vacuum hose that goes to the brake booster. It's a ribbed rubber hose, so that also was changed out so that it was correct. Other than that, I think the engine compartment is pretty much there. The other thing that I did on this car was change the trunk matting. So replaced all that diamond quilted interior matting with smooth matting. I'm going to try to put some steam and heat to try to take some of the wrinkles out, but it looks like that's just the way this material wants to lay, because I hadn't done anything to the trunk matting, and yet it has this kind of rippled texture to it. I probably will go away as it goes through some heat cycling and things like that, but for at least the correction was done. So now the whole trunk area is correctly upholstered without the diamond matting and it's good to go. The other thing that I'm waiting on at this point is just the knockoffs. I think from previous we said that the knockoffs should be 3-eared convex knockoffs as opposed to the 2 ears. Barani said that they would exchange them, so I sent the original ones, or the 2-eared ones that they had originally gave to, sold to the car, and I'm waiting for them to send back the 3-ear. There was a note to say that they're kind of delayed at this point, and they're just waiting to get some more in stock. So hopefully those will come back in time for the show. So I'm waiting on that. So, but the rest of it, I think we're kind of there. I've covered up just about everything else. There's one more thing I'm just waiting for. The toolkit is pretty much complete. I'm just waiting for to put together an owner's manual for this car. But other than that, that's kind of it. I'm hoping I'll get this car down on the ground and we'll get it all buttoned up once the knockoffs come. But that's the update on the PF Coupe. Taking the PF Coupe out for a quick drive, just taking advantage of this warm day in December. This car's heading to Cavallino, so what I want to do is just make sure it runs and dries well just before I detail it and get it all set up for the show in January. So really what it is I'm just trying to make sure that it drives right, because when it heads to Florida, the owner may take it out for a drive down there, and I just want to make sure that everything's tuned right. I did a couple little tweaks to the engine, make sure there are no oil leaks or ignition issues. So just taking it out for a quick drive just to make sure everything looks good and works right, and we're gonna go from there. So here we go. Not gonna go that far. Don't want to get the car really filthy. Just want to make sure that, like I said, I put original distributor caps on there, refurbished them. So I just want to make sure that there's no cross-firing or any of that other weird stuff that can happen when you change things up. Shouldn't, but it's always good to just double check. So I'm just going to take a quick shot down the road. These PF Coupes are interesting because they're kind of, they're right at the edge of Ferrari getting it all right. I tell people all the time that PF Coupes are nice cars, but they drive nautically. In other words, they kind of roll around the turns. They're not totally planted, because I guess they have the Hyundai shocks, which are these lever shocks, and they kind of roll around a little bit. Not as tightly sprung as Ferrari went to Koni shocks towards the early 60s. This is a 1959 car. So in the 50s they were still using lever shocks, and it makes this car kind of roll a little bit more than you would see in the later cars. But still has the 250 engine. The Series 2 cars went to outside plug engines, so they started to resemble more the later 250s. Yeah, as you can see, as it goes around the turns, it's kind of wallowing around a little bit. You kind of have to drive these a little bit more aggressively. You have to if you really wanted to go fast, you got to set it up early, get it, and it's going to roll in, and you got to just kind of hold on. It'll understeer through that turn. But if you set it up right and get all the power hard, I think it'll settle in. But you can see how it's just kind of rolling around. Also, these seats are not exactly the most supportive seats, so you kind of roll around too and hold on to the steering wheel a little bit just to keep things going. But you can see how it just kind of likes to roll. This car is kind of set up, gives you that feeling of more of a car to back roads, just comfortable driving. It's not really, to me, it doesn't have the feeling of like to hammer the back roads and stuff. Although it does have the underpinnings a lot of what other people have used to make Tour de France's and replicas from this car. But I think that they had to really stiffen things up to make the car feel more sporty. I think as the 60s went on, the street cars resembled more of the sports racers. But I gotta imagine that Tour de France feels very different from a 250 PF Coupe. If you were to just take a PF Coupe and try to make it into a Tour de France, but I imagine there's got to be a couple more tweaks in the spring rates and the shocks. Definitely has that 250 pull. I just find it very, very wallowy in the turns. I think you could adjust these Hyundai shocks to be a little stiffer. I think there's some things you can do to the oils and put some stiffer oil or heavier oils in it to help it stiffen it the way it handles. But the rolling, I think it's just the spring rates are really kind of soft. So I'm going to take this car back, and then what I'm going to do is just go through all the operations of the car, make sure that the turn signals work, the horn works, all that stuff. I mean, I've been checking it each day, but one of the challenges of taking a car to a show, on top of Murphy's Law, where anything that can go wrong will go wrong, is that you're taking the car from cold New York weather down to South Florida, Palm Beach, for the show, put it on a truck that drives through all this weather and then ends up in a cold truck that well, first off, the car ends up inside the shop, so it's a heated, dry shop, and then it goes into a transporter that is unheated, driving through whatever kind of weather for a week to get down to Florida. And then once it gets to Florida, it gets unloaded in 80 degree, 85 degree, high humidity winter weather. And then what happens is all the electrical contacts start getting moisture on them, and I've seen it happen over and over again. Your turn signals work, your brake lights work, and then all of a sudden you get down there and nothing seems to work. All the switches get finicky, and it's because of the moisture, or it's just the difference in the condensation, just because the car goes through a weather change in the 5 days between the last time you saw it and the time you take it to the show. So what I'm doing constantly is checking and double checking the switches, and in a way exercising and making sure that when they're in Florida, the switches and everything like that kind of get exercised, and the moisture gets moved out of it just by using it and warming things up. Because if you don't do that, the first time you need to go, you're getting judged, and the guy goes, okay, turn on your headlights, and your headlights don't work. It's pretty embarrassing. looks good.